Okay, so welcome back everyone. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting thing that I have seen a couple of developers are doing this kind of mistakes whenever they are using a Spring Boot. Uh, or we can say that the people are adding unnecessary dependencies in their build file like pom.xml, which they don't need to do this. Let's take an example that in which cases that you don't need to add unnecessary dependencies. Okay, actually which will make your final jar, or it will make your build category very large. If you add a always adding unnecessary dependencies, it will be a tedious process for you while you are building kind of things, or your class path will have unnecessary dependencies. Okay, let's take example that you are dealing with the Spring Boot kind of project, and there is a the people are adding a Spring Boot starter web, and after that they just think about that, okay, I need to do something with the JSON kind of things. Okay, so that they are also adding a JSON kind of API into their build file, which is a pom.xml. It is a useless. Okay, because when you add a Spring Boot starter web, inside that starter, automatically you are also getting the JSON API dependency as well. So in your class path, by default the JSON related jar files will be automatically available. You don't need to add another kind of JSON dependency. Okay, and that JSON API dependency version is also automatically managed by a Spring Boot, that particular starter. Whatever the compatible dependency of JSON is suitable, it will be pick that dependency, that particular JSON dependency jar, or we can say that to pick the appropriate version of that JSON API. Okay, we don't need to add unnecessary dependency of JSON API. Let me take example two. Like I have seen people are adding Jaxby API dependency into their pom.xml. Okay, it's not necessary, because the Jaxby API is actually part of the JDK itself. Okay, you are having a JDK in your class path. By default, you are getting all this kind of Jaxby context kind of things, which will help you to deal with the XML kind of things. Why you need to add a Jaxby kind of API, a separate dependency in your pom.xml file? Okay, so let's take example number three. Like I have seen the people are also adding the Hibernate validator. Like whenever we are getting some request data from the front end side into your controller, then we need to validate that request, whatever the data payload that we are getting, we need to validate those properties. Okay, like username length is whatever we expected it or not. Okay, password length is that it is expected or not. Okay, in this case the people are adding the Hibernate validator dependency in their pom.xml file. I think this is not necessary, because when you add a Spring Boot starter web, Hibernate validator dependency is will be a part of that Spring Boot starter web. It will come along with that Spring Boot starter web. Okay, let me give you a hint that how you can identify this, that okay, let's conclude this. Let's conclude this kind of all those things, and I will give you a bonus tip that how we can identify all these kind of things. Okay, so the key takeaway point from this video is that anyhow, if the dependency is already coming along with the starter at a framework level, or coming along with the JDK itself level, then you don't need to add a separate dependency for the same kind of requirement into your pom.xml. Make sense? Okay, let me give you a bonus tip about this, that how you can identify that. Whenever you need to add any kind of dependency, okay, you think about that, okay, I need to do this particular requirement, I need this dependency. Before adding that dependency into your pom.xml, just go to your pom.xml. Inside that, suppose if you are using IDE like Eclipse or Spring Tool Suite, in your pom.xml there is a tab called dependency hierarchy. Go to into that dependency hierarchy tab. There is a on top, right top, there is a filter is there. In that filter text box, you have to type a dependency. Like if you need a Hibernate validator, type that Hibernate hyphen validator. So you can see that Hibernate validator is comes along with the Spring Boot starter web. It means that you have Hibernate validator in your class path. You don't need to add it separately. Make sense? Another example, that if you want to add logback as a dependency, you need to give a logging configuration for your application. So just go to your pom.xml dependency hierarchy. type logback. You can see that logback is also coming along with the Spring Boot starter map. Okay, that's great, right? Let's take another example. If you want to use a Mockito kind of things or JUnit kind of things, go to your dependency hierarchy, type there JUnit kind of things, Mockito kind of things. You can see that okay, this is a part of Spring Boot starter test. Uh, Whatever the dependency we are already having, it is a part of that dependency. Don't need to add another dependency kind of things. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much.